welcome back. Today's video I just wanted to do a simple watercolor demo. I'm actually going to use one of my Arches watercolor paper, a simple painting, something that you can paint along, give it a go. If you're new to my channel, please give us a like, thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. That would help get my video out to more people, and hope you enjoy the video. Okay, so this video, I wasn't quite sure what to paint, so I just decided to do a dramatic sky most of the scene. So I've just grabbed myself a mixture of yellow ochre. So you can see I'm covering the paper, not everywhere, and I'm using the dry page just to get some of that yellow ochre down. With a sky, I do usually use wet on wet, but I wanted to just cover some of the paper, and I'm using plenty of water with the mix. So I just splash on the colour and then add some water, a clean sort of brush. You can see I'm just softening the edges, just mixing that, taking some of the paint and moving it along the page. I don't want it too dark with the yellow ochre, but I'll go in with a darker colour after the yellow ochre. You can see I'm just spotting in just little bits more here and there of the same mix of yellow ochre, maybe adding just a slightly bit more pigment. And now I'm going in with my mix of it's a French ultramarine blue, some of the yellow ochre. I think I've touched a little bit of the cad red into that mix also. I just mix them until I get a dark grey blue tone. So I want to mix more blue than red. Obviously I don't want a purpley. Well, it is almost purple, but I want it more on the blue side. So more blue than red, just a tiny touch of red, and that give me the dark sort of cloud colour you can see, and I'm quite happy with that. So I'm just covering around the yellow ochre, and the yellow ochre gives us nice warm feel to the clouds, and then you got the dark grey against that. So I'm just going in here and softening the bottom part of the paper. I think at this stage I still wasn't sure what to do with the bottom part of the paper. I was thinking maybe a bit of a landscape, but I wasn't quite sure at this point. I just wanted to get the sky done as quick as possible and get a nice dramatic sky. So I'm quite happy with the overall effect of the sky. And as I do that, I'll just think of what to put in the bottom sort of bottom fifth of the paper. But for now I'm just adding more dark and letting that mix on the paper. It gives a really nice effect when you let things sort of mix together and mingle, and as you add water to the pigment, letting those pigments move together and mix. And also you can use the angle of your paper to just manipulate things down the paper, down the page. You can, as you've seen in my videos previously, you can also tilt your paper to a different angle. So if you want the sky to go horizontally, or you want the pigment to sort of mix, moving across the paper, not down, then you can just tilt that paper on its side. So that's quite effective. And also you can always use your tissue paper, kitchen roll, anything like that, just to take off any excess paint, to lighten up in places. And you can see I'm just taking off that bottom bead just to clean up the edge. I was thinking I could go in with a bit of a green sort of hillside, something like that. So I've took out that bead so that I can work without worrying about it sort of mixing with the sky colour. Let me just get in and show you some of the effects that I've got from the sky. You can see all sorts of things going on as the pigment mixes together. Gives it a nice, almost looks like rain within the sky in the dark clouds. You got all these streaks and all this gradation going on. And I'm just adding a dark sort of green, bit of a hill sort of horizon line, and adding some yellow ochre as well, just to give some of that contrast and some nice interest. I think at this point I just wasn't sure. I thought I'd include a building, maybe two, so I'm just leaving some areas. You can see I want some white areas there that I can sort of paint around, just to give the impression of a highlight. So if you're not sure of what you're going to include, just leave it white, and then you can sort of go in and decide as you paint. But yeah, I thought I'd go along and paint a couple of cottages or houses in this scene. So that's what those little white squares are for. I can sort of decide what I'm going to do with those as I paint. But I just wanted to keep the paper reserved as I decide. And you can always put colour on. It's more difficult to take colour off. So while I'm deciding, I'm just leaving those white areas as they are. And I can go around and paint them in as I feel. As you can see, I've already decided to cover one of the white blocks that I reserved. It just didn't sit right. I just thought it was they just looked too sort of cut out. Maybe I could have worked around and done it anyway, but I decided to move that house to the right hand side. So my first building starts where you can see I'm just doing the roof, and just to help me get the buildings right, I just decided to do a quick line drawing. So I just used my 2B pencil just to get the perspectives right and the building sort of situated within the landscape itself, just to make sure that it's okay. And I'm quite happy with where I decided to put them, so I'm just going in with a mix for the roof, and this I'm using the yellow ochre. And there's just a few trees sort of in the background. I'm thinking of maybe putting a bit of a path running along just on the right hand side of the buildings, with a fence sort of coming down to the right hand side. What you can see I'm doing here, just dropping a little bit of French ultramarine into the trees, just to give it a dark tone and letting it mix together with the green, just manipulating it here and there, just letting it mix, and that's quite an effective technique to use while painting trees. Just give that nice cast shadow side, give it depth and interest. And it works also with buildings or anything that you paint. You can just, instead of mixing the colour and mixing every colour itself, you can just drop colour into colour while it's pigment while it's still wet on the page, and that allows the colours to mix together. And just using that same colour, just mixing it just slightly in with the trees on the left hand side. And also while I'm doing that, it just gives a nice profile sort of outline for the buildings, so it helps the buildings pop and brings them forward. You can see there, just box it in nicely. So that's the only part of this painting that I would take care of. Take my time, just be wary, just to go around the buildings without going into the buildings. It just gives an overall nice effect and helps the buildings to stand out just a bit against the background. You notice how I hold my brush while doing these trees. I'm using, almost holding the end of the brush, not like you would a pencil. Just trying to keep things nice and loose, and I find that that helps when you want to try and paint loosely. You just use almost the end of the brush, so you're not really fiddling around with details. You want the brush to be almost loose in your hand, so you don't grip it tight. It's not a rigid sort of movement. You just relax and just hold your brush towards the end, and that just gives you a nice loose brush stroke. And I just wanted to get that in for the trees. So I've changed the brush already. I'm using a smaller brush. In fact, this is it's a Da Vinci size 5, and it, as you can see, it does have a nice point to the brush, and it also has the benefit of holding quite a lot of water. I think it's actually a mixed natural brush and also synthetic. So these are really good brushes. They're not as expensive as the natural sable, but also you have the advantage of natural sable and also synthetic, so they're well worth investing. If you're on a budget, you can get quality brushes through a mix of both brushes. As I said, I wanted to include a bit of a fence, and this just helps your eye into the scene itself. It's something that leads your eye in, and so obviously the closer to the bottom of the paper you get, then the larger the sticks will be, the fence posts. But I don't want them too strong, so I'll just go in and I'm just adding a line just to connect these posts, and then I'll go on along and soften some of the posts so that it blends it into the painting itself. I don't want them standing out so much, so although it looks messy, I'm just adding a little bit of water and I'll just dampen that off as I go, and it just gives a softer fence post. Well, there it is. I tried to keep this as simple as possible. My emphasis for this painting was the sky, making a dramatic sky in watercolour. So I hope you like it. I'm just touching up on just a few of the shadow areas. Just looking at this, I think I need to put some sort of a wall or a fence just running the bottom of the buildings to separate those from the grass, and it would just, I think, make more sense as a painting itself. So I'm just putting in these bits of fence or bit of wall or whatever it may be, and just adding that, and I think really that is the last thing I want to do with this painting. So again, if you're new to my channel, if you're seeing this for the very first time, and if you like what you see, then I would appreciate a like, give me a thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed already, then please do so. I do post videos like this each week, sometimes maybe even 2, depending on what I'm doing. If I'm not busy that week, then I'll post 2. So any comments, anything like that, any questions, then please feel free to leave that comment, and I appreciate that, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, bye bye.